Hey everybody, thanks for watching. This is this big pitching and chipping project that I've been working on for a long time. This all started because pitching and chipping instruction has changed a lot over the last, over many years, but really over the last few years. The instruction that's been out has really changed a lot. So as I was getting into some of this new information about chipping and pitching, I was going to make a video about it, and I was all set to make my video about it, and I was trying these things that some people were saying, and some instructors and some regular golfers were saying, hey, this is the new way to do it. And I gave myself the yips so bad in chipping and pitching, trying it. No matter what I could do, I was flubbing every single shot. And what started as just an experiment with a few different feels pretty quickly turned into one of the worst times of my golfing career, as far as just not being able to hit even a really pretty basic shot. These are thins, and it took maybe half an hour to develop it, and then it was weeks. Maybe not weeks, but it was a long time trying to figure this out, and really it just was making no progress on it for a really long time. Everything feels so. I was really struggling with my chips, and I tried to erase everything I had just heard and just said, okay, what if I just had to hit a good chip? And I couldn't do it. This is now for 2 weeks. I'm just struggling with it. And I said, well, I can do this. I could go here and just set up a putt and hit the edge of this thing 100 times out of 100, right? And then if I wanted to be a little bit on the down, then I'm taking say this is the upper dot and this is the lower dot, and they're, to hit it flush, they're stacked on top of each other. And to hit it a little on the down, now I'm just getting this upper one towards the target just a little bit. And that is the key. It's not about getting, everybody says get your weight to the left. It's not about getting your weight to the left. It's about getting this system tilted on the down. Yes, the weight does go left, but I was getting my weight left like this. If I tilt this way, now the hula hoop is going into the ground and then up. If I go this way a little bit, now the hula hoop is going into the ground and then it's going towards the ground and into the ground. See the difference between and both of them would show on a force plate, 80% of my weight left. So it's not about getting your weight more left. It's about getting this top dot over the lower dot. So that was the first part. And I said, okay, well, I can do this. Lots of chipping instruction, beginner chipping instruction, just makes it sound really simple what the people are doing. It's a really simple motion. But I can see that something else is happening where it's not basically a putting motion with loft, like Raymond Floyd would say. Something else was happening. So this is what Dr. Rob Neal said.
I think what you have to do, though, is you need to shallow the trajectory of the club head as it approaches the ball. And I think that's the key to being able to hit these small shots here.
Dr. Rob Neal has studied this stuff with Titleist and made these videos about it and done some high academic level research about it. He said they're swinging steep to shallow. I was like, okay, well, what does that mean? I think I know what that means. So then I was looking at a video from Australia, this one golf instructor, and he was saying that what he likes to get his golfers to do is get 100 balls, okay? And he'll have them with a 9-iron or a 8-iron or a pitching wedge. He'll just have them putt them to a little, a towel on the green there. This would be the first thing he does.
I start off with a target that's very close to me. I like to start learning at about 1 meter away, and I take a fairly large target, so it makes it easy to get the target and build my confidence. And the idea is here to hit the ball with the right technique into the target, and to do it 100 times in a row really builds your confidence. Also, if you happen to get to 95, 96 you'll find that a lot of pressure comes on, so you learn to handle the mental side of the game as well while learning this way.
When you're there, you get your 100 balls and you just go back and through, and you're just trying to get 100 balls to land on that towel and see how it carries out, right? So that's pretty consistent chipping that way.
And I must emphasize that it's important to get 100 in a row from this distance before you move back to the next meter.
And just feel like I was continuing this putting arc. Nothing's really breaking down and just turning it into the ground like that. But that doesn't work either, and there's a reason. The reason is, if you imagine a big circle touches the ground in one specific point only. If it's a big circle and the ground is flat, there's only one point where it actually touches the ground. So that if this is a big circle and it's touching the ground here, if you end up moving the system a little bit this way, now you've thinned it a little bit. If you're swinging and you move the system a little bit that way, now that, it's called a tangent point, moves back this way. To be very consistent, you have to do something to flatten that out. So I started thinking about how can I prove this and what can I do to show this. So I have to go to John Ortega's lab in Costa Mesa and get on he's got a putting machine there, like a putting robot. If I can put a wedge into the grip vise of this putting robot, I think I can figure out what's going on with chipping.
All right, so this is at Ortega Putt Lab in Costa Mesa, and I had seen this thing in the corner for a long time, this putting robot thing. It's just a super basic device. It's actually really expensive. It's more complicated than I thought. I thought you just kind of strapped the putter to it and you made it swing. But actually it has an upper and a lower arm, and it has a neck tilt, kind of how much you would bend over. So I was trying to figure out, okay, let me set this thing into the posture it would be in, and then that kind of seemed like it. The other thing that was interesting about this is I didn't realize like how heavy this thing is. This thing is like 120 pounds heavy. The swinging of the putt, of just even a putter, make that machine want to move around. So if I was going to have this thing swing a wedge and hit a ball, then it really would want to move around. And so this would be like kind of what the original way of teaching chipping would be, putting with loft, as Raymond Floyd said. And when you set this thing up and it was hitting balls, yeah, I mean, basically it's perfectly consistent. But one thing that I could see is that the ball would not be hit that well, and certainly not with much spin, if the ball position was off even by a dimple. All right, so what I have set up here is a really, really basic pitching motion. This is a putting machine, but I've got it set up with this 9-iron. So I think this is like the most basic way that people used to teach chipping. It's like, okay, let's do 45. Do a little chip shot. Ball speed of 8.4 miles an hour and 1,690 spin. And let's see what it goes from half. All right, so that's 15.1 miles an hour. Spin rate, 1,690. Perfect pitch, 14.3 miles an hour ball speed. And we hit down on it 1. So this is about as consistent as you can get. Was 1392, so not a lot at all. But you wouldn't expect that much with a pitching wedge. You just standing here and going like that and that is not a good solution for chipping, because I'm not as stable as that thing. And there's some other reasons that I'll get into, but you cannot just do that and that. Now what we're gonna do is, let's put this slightly back in the stance, so it's gonna be go one ball back in the stance and see what that does. Okay. 15.2 ball speed, similar. A little more spin, that was just a little bit more spin. I'm gonna try that again. 14.7, 1700 spin. It's about the same. I think it launches a little lower, but so I'm going to do one ball back. And it's just pure every time, like dead straight. All right, there. All right, so from here, that was 2.2 down. So center is 1 down, one ball back is 2.2 down, and one ball forward is 2 up. All right, so now we're going to try to lean this golfer over to the left a little bit. Now he's basically chipping on a downslope, but now the system with it tilted this way is bottoming out there. So this would continue into the ground, quite steep. So it's because it's touching the ground right there. So this would actually, this could even like break my club or something, but we're gonna try it. All right, so now we're gonna lean this guy on his side even more. These are a little taller. But the more I lean over, the more this hula hoop is going into the ground. Okay, so of all the short game instruction going on, I think there's something missing in what instructors are teaching us. So I have this set up because I've been thinking about this a lot, and I think this is what the great pitchers and chippers of the ball are doing. Basically, so I have this set up here like to be almost like a putting stroke. Okay, so it's just back and through. Lower body's not moving. This thing is just going back and through. Okay, like a putting stroke would be, only with a chipper. So some great chippers like Raymond Floyd is putting with loft, and this is like maybe one way to do it, but I think pretty limited because you need to hit the ball first and then have it, and then on the modern greens you need to have it spin a lot. I think golfers are doing something different than this. So this is part one to know. And if I let this machine hit a ball from here, so that was an angle of attack down of 0. That was effectively 0. Okay. And I think that that can work in some situations, but I think that's really limited. And you can see that only spun at 1,640. It is a 9-iron. I'm going to switch it to a wedge soon, but just to show that's like not really going to spin that much. But we'll do that one more time. So we go here, we go right directly down from the center of this system. And we go halfway back here. All right, also 0 down. So that's 0 down. But they need to hit the ball first and they need to spin it more, especially with modern greens. So this is what I think great golfers are doing. Instead of just standing normal, they're doing this. And then now they're taking their upper body and they're leaning to the left just a little bit. So my system got moved a little bit. Okay, so go that way. That way here. That way there. Okay, so now the golfer is effectively this way, right? So if you think of 2 dots, one dot being your upper dot in between your shoulders and another one being in between your hip pointers, you're getting that upper dot slightly lower. And then I think this is the second way people, not the modern way yet, but this under other certain chipping conditions is another way golfers are chipping. And you can see now when I do that, if I took it up here, the continuation of the hula hoop, so to speak, is now going into and under the ground. So much so that if I took it back here and I let it go, it would actually hit the ball and it would shake this system up a lot. Well, let's just see what happens. So you can see it hits the ground pretty hard, shakes this whole thing. Instead of 0 down, now it is coming steep to this point here that's now more back in the stance. What I think is happening is they're swinging steep and then they're shallowing it. So imagine if it starts steep to here, but then this whole system, because that's fat, would get raised up and strike the ball. That's what I think is going on with really good chippers and pitchers. They go steep and then they're doing something. Either their postures, their legs are getting straighter, or their posture's coming up, or something to get this whole system up late too. So I think they're steep all the way to about here, and they know if they kept going steep, they would hit it, they would fat it. So then they get their posture up a little bit. But I think they're doing something like this. So it would be steep to here, and then the posture comes up a little bit. It's so little. It's so little. So see, right here, without anything, it would be that fat. So what I think they're doing is they're swinging steep with their shoulders, and then using some kind of posture cue to get this thing up more. It's so little though. That's, I think, what's kind of happening. Yeah, so now that was 6 degrees down, whereas if I hit a ball here, that would be like 12 degrees down. So basically you're swinging at it with your upper body, 12 degrees down and fat, but then the shallower is this here. So if I get rid of this, holy mackerel, this thing is heavy. So I'm swinging steep and fat to there and giving it late last minute up. Like that. So that was 5 degrees down. I only carried 36 yards and spun 5,500. Steep. And then basically this system is getting a little taller, but so that was 5 degrees down again, 6,200 spin on only a 35-yard carry. But that's just nipped and spinning like crazy. And it's this little kick at the bottom. All right, lower ball speed, 5,000 spin on only a 20-yard carry, like that. Let's go to the court.
What it is, the first thing to know is that think of loft on the clubs you're going to chip with like belts in karate. Like a 8-iron or a 9-iron, this would be like a white belt. You can handle this. A 50-degree wedge would be like a orange belt, and then a 60-degree wedge in pitching and chipping with this, that would be like a black belt. The more loft it is, the more difficult it is going to be to hit this bottom without like getting it to catch or thinning it or flubbing it. So what I think is happening with chipping is players, you're going to want to set up as if you're doing a putting stroke, right? But if I was just doing a putting stroke here, the bottom of the circle would only touch the ground in a small spot. So you have to do something to flatten out the bottom. So Dr. Rob Neal said steep to shallow. So you have to do something there. You start steep and your intention is to steep, but then you're going to do something that shallows it out. And that's what we see the pros doing. So the first thing to do is to figure out how to get this steep motion. So what you do is you set up, and if this is your top dot here, and this is your bottom dot here, so go in between your shoulders, and this is the top dot, and this is the bottom dot, would be like your belt buckle. You're going to set up, and if I was just putting with top dot on top of lower bottom dot, and I was just putting, you would do that, but then you would lean the system over this way, so it would be slightly down. And that's the first thing I would do, is get like a 9-iron and learn to just putt from this slightly down kind of way. All right, so this is something I think you should do. You should set up first here, top dot on top of bottom dot, then just slightly get and make a putting stroke still, but you can see how the continuation of that arc goes into the ground. So you're not really hitting down on it. All you're doing is making that putting stroke that goes down. Here, here. And this is why I have this training aid here.
All right, so I'm headed to the hardware store because there's something that I need as a training aid. It's been working like really well with what I have at home, but if I want to be able to do this at the golf course, then I want to make something kind of portable. So all I need is some wood. Hopefully I can just get it from the scrap pile. This could be perfect. Actually, this could be perfect. And then I need some spikes. All right, so now I need some really long nails or even spikes to set this into the ground. Nails are back there. It is in there really good. I definitely don't need 4 nails, that's for sure. That's what I've learned. Yeah. Hot. All right, I'm taking this to the front yard for a second, Arrow. Okay, so we made this at the hardware store. It's just a block with a spike through it. So we put that on the ground. Because I started to think, like, when I first did this, I could do this, make this club touch this block flush. I could do this 100 times out of 100. How come it's tough to do this when the ball's there? So I start to think, like, okay, that's what I want to do, okay? And this is the first thing to do, is like with a 9-iron or with this 50 degree wedge, you're going to start to just get this feeling where you're a little bit on a slope, like as if you're a down slope and you're hitting into this block. Then you can hit into the ball. You don't need the face very open or anything. Actually, the bounce doesn't really matter that much from what Dr. Rob Neal said. And you just start hitting shots like that. So then you do that with a 9-iron, you do that with a 50 degree wedge. Then if you want to start to do really what the pros are doing, now you have to do something else to start shallowing that out. And this is where it does get a little tougher, but it also makes it a lot more versatile, puts a lot more spin on the ball. And this is, I think, what Jordan Spieth and some other pros are doing. So you make this putting motion to here, right? But once you get to about here, you start to shallow out the club head by going up a little bit. Now look, this is how it works. So the first thing is just get this feeling, and you can't do this too much. It's just a downhill putting motion where you're here and you're going a little downhill. Then is, you see, if I did that here, I would go put it straight into the ground about three inches fat of where that ball is. So what you do is you go downhill and then you kind of get your posture up just a little bit, and that takes you into the ball. So actually what I've been doing is you set it a little fat, a little behind the ball. You do putting stroke and then posture up. And the chips just come out like so nice when you do that. Now it's super subtle. It's not a big yank up, but the feeling basically is that you're putting and you're directing your energy steep to this fat spot. But then, kind of like you're in an airplane and you're pulling up on the stick, you go steep to that fat spot and then you pull up on it a little bit. So you can set up basically square. The face can be kind of a little bit open just to glide some, but for the most part, you're going steep to that spot and then you're doing that pull up motion. So I've seen these on the Foresight and on the TrackMan, and they are really beautifully spinny, low compressed shots. But the final part that puts this all together really is you have to know what your engine is, as far as like, okay, what is the engine of this motor that you're running? What is the motor, the engine of this system? And really what it is you just build up how much you're gonna hit it
with your backswing, and you're letting it fall to this fat spot. So if the ball would be like, honestly, the ball would be like here, and you build it up and you let it fall, you're just letting it fall to that fat spot there, but then pulling up on it. It's a feeling as if you're letting it drop to here, and then you're pulling this thing up out of the ground. So a good thing to do is just get behind the ball and just let it fall, and then let it fall, and then you give it this little up. So I kind of call it drop it, and then you kind of pop up. But it's a total motion of about, I don't know, like it's not much, like an inch or a quarter inch. Drop it, and then you kind of posture up. Now the good thing about this is that if all you did was a circular stroke, if you look at a big circle and where it touches the ground, a big circle touches the ground in one specific spot, right? If it's a big arc, and it only touches the ground, if it's like this, it only touches the ground in that one specific spot. If you go steep and then you have something to shallow out that bottom, now you have like a nice shallow bottom. And this gets into where if you hit it a little fat, or if you hit it a little too close, if you hit it a little here or a little closer to the ball, you still get the same basic distance out of it. And this leads me like that. It was really going. So this leads me to like what Tim Yelverton said to me, was that one drill you might want to try to do is he would have me let it drop. So I'm set up putting this way, let it drop and actually hit it fat, and do your best to hit as fat as you can and still have the ball go about the distance you want it to. So drop it, posture up, okay? So then if you want to do that low nipper one, what you do is you set up like you're going to even a little more, as far as like you are going to make this putting stroke quite down, but then you're going to posture up late. That was really good. Go in. All right. I hope that makes sense. There is also something else that I haven't talked about how much to set the hands forward, and then also how much to then cock your wrist. But in general, what you need to do is just find out how to do this basic putting chipping motion. Like this is a 9-iron, where you are leaned this way and you are just hitting the ball and then the ground. You feel like you're doing a putting motion, but you're just slightly have your top ahead of the bottom a little bit. After you do that, then get like a 50-degree wedge and do the same thing where you're doing that. And then even with the 50, you can start to then move your club head back a little bit, and this motion here, so you go down, and that motion here, as you lift up, that means it's not exactly like this, but it means it's like it's diving down, and then when you go like that, that makes it go like, whew, like that, just a little bit at the bottom. And I think that's what the pros are doing. Try it out. The first thing I would say is do that Australian teacher, I can't think of it, Peter Croker. All right, so do Peter Croker's challenge first. Even if you're a great golfer, you have a great short game. Do 100 balls with a 9-iron or an 8-iron to like a towel. I think what we need to do is learn the way golfers used to learn. Instead of going straight to the 56 or the 58 or the 60-degree wedge, I think everybody needs to get with a 9-iron or an 8-iron this basic motion. And you see, I can't really follow through because I'm hitting the ground. And it's too small of an area to hit the ground if you go straight up. So it does have to be down a little bit, ball, then turf. So do Peter Croker's 100 balls. Then after that, you're gonna get a real good sense of, at least you're really starting your swing the same way. And then the expert player is now feeling just a little bit of this down near the bottom. You start down steep, and then you kind of pull up on the rudder, or I don't know what it's called in an airplane, but like that. So let me show for down the line. In a down the line way, it's going So basically motion one is this downhill putting to that fat spot, and we go downhill to that fat spot and we go kind of pull up late on the rudder. And here we can go a little shorter, so we're going downhill here and then pull up like that. I want to go out soon to Arizona. I'm going to be talking to Mike Malaska because he thinks the best I ever chipped was after a video I did with Mike about measuring up. So as far as like, he would go to that fat spot, but he would have it up a little bit, and then he would let the momentum of the swing stretch your swing out for this like really consistent arc bottom that some people are calling it. Click the subscribe button, it really helps the channel. Thanks for watching.